back with me in time, if you will, to the year 1855. James Butler Hickok is employed as a mule skinner on this I&M canal. When he found a fellow by the name of Charlie Hudson mistreating one of the mules, he stepped in behalf of the mule. Now, Charlie and Bill weren't the best of friends. And Charlie forgot to duck and caught a blow from Bill that landed him at the bottom of the canal. At the time, Bill thought he had sent Charlie to meet his maker and ran straight for home, where his mother sent him far away from LaSalle County to become that legend of the Wild West that he still is today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are going to find yourself at Rock Creek Station, Nebraska. Rock Creek Station, Nebraska is not a town. This is a stage stop. This is one building. You come here with your stagecoach, you get fresh horses, you get water, you get some food from a lady named Sarah at this particular station, and you get to stretch your legs. Stagecoach ride is awful. Traveling across Nebraska couldn't have been any better than it is today. So that's what's happening here. This stage company owns the building, but they failed to pay their rent. Now here's where it gets good. The stagecoach company has their little building on Big Dave McCandless's ground. Now Big Dave McCandless comes from out east. And Big Dave McCandless, he's got a wife and a family out east. He's got himself a girlfriend in Nebraska. Folks, rumor has it, that's Sarah. Now while Bill finds himself here, because he's been out doing what he said he was going to do, make his way in the West, he's gotten in a fight with a mama bear. And he's recovering from that accident. I'd like you to listen to the captain tell you more about Wild Bill and Rock Creek Station. Soundman, you're up.
At 18 years old, Bill found out just how big this old world could be. He was on the run, thinking he had killed a man. Now, before we continue this story, let me take a minute to share with you a piece of history right here in our presence. This schoolhouse you see here, folks, is from Troy Grove. Moved here a few years ago, back about 1990 to be exact. The deed was furnished and signed by Horace A. Hickok, Bill's brother. This, folks, is the actual schoolhouse that the Hickok children attended. But how much time Bill put in between hunting, fishing, and shooting, who knows? Bill headed west from St. Louis. He became, back then, what they call a bullwhacker, or a freighter, which in today's language would be a truck driver, as he heads west, something he had always dreamed of anyway. And by September 1856, he sent a letter home to his mother, Polly.
Dear Mother, you say right often, how am I when it has been more than 3 months since I left home and only received 2 letters from home? You want to know what I am doing? You don't know what I came to Kansas for, or you would not ask me that. I will tell you before long what I am doing and what I have been doing. The excitement is pretty much over. Have seen, since I've been here, sights that would make the wickedest hearts sick. Believe me, Mother, for what I say is true. I can't come home this fall. It would not look well. Tell the boys all to write. I hope all is well. From your son, J.B. Hickok.
Folks, if you listen close to that letter, you can tell that life was hard and times were tough. And were buried there. You could not be neutral. And by 1857, he and his brother Lorenzo had owned 160 acres in Johnson County, Kansas. And in 1858, was elected peace officer of Monticello, Kansas, his first post as a lawman. Well, later that year, he wrote back home again while he was out on the trail. And here's what he wrote. I will write a few minutes while dinner is cooking. I have been and served 3 summonses this morning. There has been 25 horses stolen here within the last 10 days by two men by the name of Scroggins and Black Ball. They have nary one been taken yet, but I think they will catch it soon. If they are caught about here, they will be run up awful soon to the top of some hill, I guess, where they won't steal any more horses. I went to see my gal yesterday and eat 25 ears of corn to fill up with. You ought to be here and eat some of her biscuits. She is the only one I ever saw that could beat Mother making biscuits, for you know I ought to know, for I can eat a few, you know. I will quit and eat my dinner and go. August 16th, 1858. One of life's most important lessons is never come between a mama bear and her cubs. And that's exactly where Wild Bill found himself. Well, in 1860, he was freighting on his way to Texas, and he got into a scrape. She got the best of him, some broken ribs, and took a bad bite to his left arm. And somehow, he made it back to the wagon and found help. He was badly injured and finally sent to Rock Creek Station, Nebraska Territory, to finish his recovery and work as a stable hand for Russell, Majors, and Waddell.
Hey, you in the house, come out. Yeah. You what? You Wellman? Yes, I'm Wellman. Run big things we can. Yeah. I ain't got no money, I haven't got any. You need your money, I need some state something. You got it or you can let me see. I haven't heard from them, so we'll have to wait. It's broke. We're tired of this, Wellman.
What do you want, Dave? We don't want anything.
I want my money. What are you doing here, Sarah?
That's none of your business. I told you we're done. Get out of here.
I ain't leaving, and you got some rent to do, and I'm ready to take it. What's going on? Hickok, this ain't your fight.
Oh, yes, it is.
Well, I'll tell you what. You boys are going to clear out or come up with some money, and you ain't got long to do it.
Now, you need to give them more time. You're the one that needs to clear out of here.
Well, I reckon we'll just have to throw you.
It ain't gonna happen.
I don't think you got
Denise.
a sense for Hickok.
Shoot him!
Ladies and gentlemen, everybody died that day except Hickok, Wilman, and Sarah, and a little boy who was in the mechanical plant. So after I clean up these bodies, so now we're going to go to Springfield, Missouri, 1865. But I'm going to just get you ready. Bill is in town in Springfield, Missouri, and the rumor has it he's there to see a lady. This happens to be Davis Tutt's sister. Now, Davis Tutt, he is a Confederate. I'm going to give you all kinds of words. You pick the one you like. He's a Confederate rebel spy for the South during the War of Northern Aggression, war between the states, or as we like to somehow call it now, the Civil War. Now, we told you earlier that Bill's family were Northern sympathizers. They were anti-slavery, and they helped slaves escape via the Underground Railroad. Bill was a Union Yankee spy during that war. There was nothing, all you got to do is read your history book, nothing civil about that war. These men are good with a gun. They are deadly with a gun. And Wild Bill Hickok.
The year is 1861. The Civil War has broken out and Wild Bill signs on as a teamster for the Union Army in Missouri. Later, he spent a lot of time in a Confederate gray uniform doing spy work and was at the Battle of Wilson's Creek and Pea Ridge, Arkansas. By 1864, he was doing detective work in Springfield, Missouri, and mustered out of the Army in 1865. He spent his time in and around Springfield, Missouri. It was here in Springfield that Wild Bill and Davis Tutt shot it out. By the way, folks, these boys weren't just gun toters. They were both dead shots with a pair of pistols, hardened and experienced by 4 years of war. But gambling and a lady would put them at odds. But how did it happen? Wild Bill and Davis Tutt had been friends. They had walked the streets together. They had gambled together. They had drank together. But it's late in the day on July 20th, 1865, when these two meet on the square in Springfield, Missouri. Let's watch.
Yeah, it's been a good day. Good. Pay me back that money you owe me. How much is that? I guess it's about $35. No, I got a memorandum somewhere. I think it was more like 25. Well, don't have it here, and I was thinking it was 35, so how about if I just take your watch? Now, that was my daddy's watch. Well, you be showing that around. I'll make sure you get it back, and you give me my money, you can have the watch back. Remember, dead men don't walk. All right.
That's not good, showing off Hickok. He's showing off his watch.
What?
Out in the street.
What?
He's showing his watch to everybody. Hickok. He's out there showing off the watch.
I've had enough. Not showing my watch. Like I said, I get my money, you get your watch. Well, I got the watch, I can show it. I told you to get your money. You calling me a liar? I'm not a liar. It ain't quite true. Well, we can do that too. Yeah. Be good here with me.
a rough and wild cow town. Wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill has come to town and he's just been named Marshal of Hays City, Kansas. Let the captain tell you some more.
Friends, let's go back in time to August 1869. General Ulysses S. Grant is sworn in as the 18th President of the United States. The first rodeo was held in Deer Trail, Colorado. Outlaw Jesse James commits his first confirmed bank robbery in Gallatin, Missouri. And 32-year-old James Butler Hickok is appointed Marshal of Hays City, Kansas. The last sheriff of just over 2 weeks could not be found. The third, actually, in the 18 months to seek new employment. Hays City was a trailhead for Texas cattle and cowboys ready for fun. And then, too, there were soldiers from the fort, along with buffalo hunters, gamblers, and all the other folks that goes with it. Most of these folks had a couple of things in common: alcohol and firearms, and a lot of them weren't opposed to just a little trouble. In short, somebody was needed to keep the lid on Hays City. Our man Hickok offered 3 courses of action for lawbreakers. One was to head over to the train station and take the first eastbound train out of Hays City. The second option was to take the first westbound train out of town. The third was to go north in the morning, Boot Hill. This policy gave the railroad a good business and saved Wild Bill a lot of money on bullets. But it seems there's always one in every crowd, and in Hays City, it was Bill Mulvey. He had spent some time with his good friend John Barleycorn shooting up the town and declaring he would kill Bill Hickok on sight. As he rounded the street corner on horseback, Wild Bill tried to calm him down. Mulvey was not so inclined, and Bill created a slight distraction to gain some time. It was all he needed. Bill Mulvey fell from his horse, dead from a bullet from one of Wild Bill's famous Navy Colts. It was just 2 days later, September 26th, Sam Strawhun and 18 of his cowboy friends rode into Hays City. Strawhun and Wild Bill were not strangers, but they certainly were not friends. They had known each other for at least a few weeks. No matter, they were full of tanglefoot from one of Wild Bill's famous Navy Colts. It was just 2 days later, September 26th, Sam Strawhun and 18 of his cowboy friends rode into Hays City. Strawhun and Wild Bill were not strangers, but they certainly were not friends. They had known each other for at least a few weeks. No matter, they were full of tanglefoot and they had come to raise hell, and it didn't matter who was in charge. They landed in John Bitter's saloon and proceeded to drink it dry and destroy it in the process. The party got loud and it got rough, and Wild Bill was called on to quiet them. Strawhun threatened to kill someone just for luck. Wild Bill picked up a few unbroken glasses and took them inside and put them on the bar. Strawhun picked up one, threatened to throw it back out into the street, when Hickok replied, "Do, and they will carry you out." Strawhun's arm made a motion. Once again, Bill's Navy Colts put 2 holes in him before he cleared leather. He was buried later that day in the city cemetery. By now, Hays City knew they had a lawman. The newspaper remarked that Hays City, under the guardian care of Wild Bill, is quiet and doing well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, a lot happened between here, there, and now. We're going to find ourselves in Hays City, Kansas today, again, just like when you're driving through Kansas. You're there a long, long time. Now, Bill's no longer the marshal because he lost the next election. But he's having trouble with the soldiers. that are stationed outside of Hayes City and Old Fort Hayes. This is Custer's 7th Cavalry. Tom Custer's little brother is a thorn in Bill Hickok's side. And the feeling's pretty mutual. But remember, Bill is no longer the sheriff.
It's 1870. Wild Bill lost the last election. He stays in Hayes City. He's gambling and he's keeping a fellow company by the name of William F. Cody. He's better known today as Buffalo Bill for providing meat for the railroad and the army. And some folks say he shot a lot more buffalo back at Tommy Grome's saloon than he did out west of town. Well, alrighty then. If you're in James Butler Hickok's line of work, you cannot afford a misfire on a revolver. Every day, he would find a place to unload the chambers from the day before and reload those revolvers. You could not afford a misfire on a cap and ball, and it would happen with some frequency if you weren't pretty proficient. There were a lot of newspaper men that recorded in the day that he would put on a bit of an exhibition in the mornings when folks knew he was going to empty those guns and reload them again. They would catch him out on the street, maybe offer up a tomato can or some sort of a target, whereby he would keep the can rolling down the street till both guns were empty. Or oftentimes he would throw one in the air and he would shoot up in the air and keep it from hitting the ground till they were empty. Several newspapers record this as fact. His peripheral vision was so good that he could stand in the middle of the street with a post on either side, shoot simultaneously, and hit both posts. Recorded history, folks. It's on the evening of July 17th, 1870, and Wild Bill was in Patty Welch's saloon. But some of the boys from the 7th Cavalry were in town, and they were no friends of Hickok, including a fellow by the name of Tom Custer, brother of George A. Custer, the famous general. There are 2 troopers in town, one by the name of Lonergan and one by the name of Kyle, and they lead the attack. Step back in time with me as we take a look on the streets of Hayes in the saloon where Hickok was blindsided.
Hey, boys. Lonergan. Kelly. You said y'all looking for Hickok?
Yeah.
Hickok's in the saloon. Come in out drinking, you boys. So the gun misfired. It cost 2 rowdy 7th Cav their lives. So we gotta go see what Bill does. Bill's gonna show up in Colorado. But his life in Colorado is not well documented. We just have to assume that he lived the same kind of lifestyle in Colorado that he lived in Kansas and Springfield. But we are going to catch up with him again. We're going to catch up with him in Abilene, Kansas. Abilene, Hayes, rough, rowdy cowtown. These are full of dirty, dusty, stinky cowboys that have been riding for weeks on a trail from Texas to Abilene, where they're going to put these cows on the train. Abilene is a dirty, dusty trailhead of town, and it needs a lawn. Now, there's a particular group of cattle guys in town, and They're owned and run by a man named Bill Coe. These Texas cowboys, they're hard dogs to keep under the fort. But Bill has put a law in place. It's to check your guns at the door. You check in to spend the night in town, the innkeeper gives you guns. This law was designed to save bullets, keep the undertaker retired, and preserve the life of cowboys. As you can see, it didn't work because we won't find many cowboys left today. Now, the problem is, this is going to be a really hot battle. And this is going to be the end of Wild Bill Hickok's lawman career. He's going to be outgunned. And in the heat of battle, he's going to turn at the sound of his name, and he's going to shoot his deputy. That don't sit right, fella. Captain, tell him some more.
Folks, we're going to pick this story back up in Abilene, 1871. It's just a sleepy little town on a stagecoach stop. Later, it would be a whistle stop on the Kansas Pacific Railroad. It was discovered by a fellow named Joseph G. McCoy, a cattle buyer from a little town called Springfield, Illinois. He drew up the plans and he built the pens to hold these longhorn cattle that would be coming up from Texas. Joseph McCoy just happened to be mayor of Abilene, and as soon as he found out Wild Bill was in town, it wasn't long, April 15th to be exact, Wild Bill became Marshal of Abilene. The news caused a stir, especially with the Texas cowboys bringing the herds north.
So now, folks, I told you that Bill's no longer a lawman. He's going to leave Kansas. He does turn around and go back sometime and go out east and give Mike Williams, his wife, some money. Because Mike He didn't want to leave anybody destitute. He gave a call back a little bit of his money. Ladies and gentlemen, no good deed goes unpunished.
Abilene is no longer the same. Wild Bill finds himself a changed man. The cowboys had had enough, and the people of Abilene voted against the cattle trade. Wild Bill was relieved of duty and replaced by another man at half the wages, a typical move in that day. Bill heads for Colorado, where he meets Charlie Utter. Later, Wild Bill tries his hand at show business again with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show and traveled out east. Between the bright lights and the pranks, coupled with live ammunition, his career as an entertainer was cut short. You folks remember when I told you about the lady who owned the circus and had the pretty red dress? Her name was Agnes Lake. Well, they met once more, and they stayed in touch. Well, they decided to get married in the spring of 1876. And that just goes to show you folks that a gal with lipstick can go farther than a man with a Winchester and a side of bacon. He and Agnes lived in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and in a couple of months, Bill gets restless, teams up with his buddies, California Joe, Charlie Utter, and a few other scouts, and they're heading out in a wagon train bound for Dakota Territory. Along that trail, Wild Bill discovers a young lady by the name of Martha Jane Canary, better known in history as Calamity Jane. Calamity Jane was quite a lady. She had worked in the freight hauling business, and she did whatever she had to do to make a living, including men's work, even freighting. It's about 3 in the afternoon, August the 2nd, 1876. Wild Bill walks over to Nuttall and Mann's number 10 saloon. Did he have a premonition? He indeed had a keen spiritual side, as he had mentioned it, warning him in times of danger. To his good friend, Charlie Utter. Charlie, I feel this is going to be my last can, and I won't leave it alive. Now, folks, this is where the story picks up. It's probably western Kansas, 1873.
Yeah.